Well, let's take a minute. And I know it's sometimes hard to breathe through those masks, but breathe in and out. And come into this exact moment now. You know, I say it often. Well, we've only been back 1 week, but I say it often, even on my videos, that we can leave everything as it is, and we can bring our entire consciousness right here, right now. This is the only thing we have, is this moment now. Just this moment, as it is. Breathing in and breathing out, being alive in this moment now. It's a miracle, really, that we are here, that we have work left to do, that our soul is not quite finished. To believe that, to know that in our heart of hearts, and to be perfectly happy and joy-filled. So for that and so much more, we can be grateful with a slight smile on our face. And so it is. Amen. Well, I have been, if you've listened to some of my video messages, you might have heard me talk about this book that has been blowing my mind, which is called Love Without End, Jesus Speaks by Glenda Green. And yes, there's all this still. I made it through once, and immediately I went back to the beginning to start again, because I'm still blown away by it. I love the emoji, the blown away emoji. I use it on my phone all the time because my mind is just like blown by some of the things in here. Not that the things are brand new. I still believe, as I've said before to you all, that there's nothing new written. But boy, sometimes it's written in such a way that it seems brand new. It seems like I haven't heard it before. Now in this book, Glenda Green is an artist. This is a true story. Glenda Green's an artist, and Jesus showed up in her painting studio and spoke with her back in 1992. In fact, it was around the same time that God spoke to Neale Donald Walsch when he wrote the Conversations with God series. I thought, isn't that interesting? You know, that this God, this spirit, this universal mind, whatever you call it, you know, felt the need, or maybe we attracted that understanding that we wanted to have. Happened at the same time. And so she recorded every evening after she came out of her painting studio, she recorded the conversations that she had with Jesus. Like, that alone, like, wouldn't it be just wild if Jesus showed up to you? I would be like, whoo! I mean, she wasn't anybody extraordinary. She was a regular person, just like me and you know? And here Jesus is showing up. And like I said, there's nothing brand new in here, but the clarity with which he speaks to her is amazing and incredible. And the way that I've been able to understand it is in a deeper way than I ever have before. I mean, that is a testimony right there. And I want to share some of that with you. I stayed on the second time around, I stayed on chapter 3, which was 25 pages for quite some time. And I finally felt strong enough to go to chapter 4 for the second time. And in chapter 4, Jesus talks about this idea with Glenda Green that I think is very powerful. And it is an idea called innocent perception. Innocent perception. He defines innocent perception as this: looking at the world as it is and seeing that it is enough. Looking at the world as it is and seeing that it is enough. All the time, no matter what's happening. No matter what's happening in my life for me, no matter what's happening in your life for you, is to see the world. I think about this. It's as if, remember when Jesus said you have to become like a little child? Like to see the world like that. That there's nothing wrong with it, that there's no reason to judge it, or try to fix it, or to control it. We don't try to do that, do we? Maybe once or twice on the way over here? Trying to control something beyond our control? Like, no, innocent perception is simply allowing the world to be as it is, however it is, to accept that the way it is. And innocent perception is really a gift, because if we can innocently perceive, think about a child again, if you can innocently perceive the world as it is and whatever is happening to me as it is, it lifts all of the tension and anxiety from you. It's gone. It's poof. There's nothing left of it. There's nothing left of it. Be like the little children. That is the gift of innocent perception. But you know what happens is our mind gets in the way. We have a conscious mind and we have a subconscious mind. And boy, that mind doesn't like this idea of innocent perception at all. The mind wants nothing more than to control everything, to make it the way it wants it to be, to package it up in neat little packages, to organize it, and to make it fit with whatever story we happen to have made up. That's what the mind likes to do. The mind likes to organize all that and make it work. It likes to be certain of an outcome. It likes to understand everything. It expects to understand everything. And I'll tell you what, if you want to understand how a gasoline-powered engine works, it works that way. The mind works beautifully. But if you want to understand how my life is the way it is and ask the why about that, the mind is no good, because the mind, you know what happens. It's why some of us are resistant to meditation. We call it monkey mind. We can't get out of it. It's doing this. It's doing this. It's doing this. Well, why? How did that work? What did she do? Why? So the heart is a much better leader than the mind, when he talks about innocent perception. The mind is not a good leader because it drives us around in distraction. But the heart can see beyond the current situation. The heart can see way beyond the physicality of the universe. The heart knows way more than what it can see. Way more than what it can see. And so the idea is to learn and to practice living from the heart. To living from the heart. To let the mind take second seat. So our work is to open the eyes of our heart. And you know this song. Jared's gonna play a little ditty right now. Aren't you? Yeah. I have no control over him. He's either going to get up here or not. Right, Jared? Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Ready? Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. This is how it works. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. Sing that for us. Would you mind, Jared?
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Open the eyes of my heart,
Sing
Lord.
that. Pray that.
Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you high, to see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to see you. Holy, 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 holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to see you. Open the eyes. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you. Sing it again. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to see you. I want to see you high, to see you high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power of love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to see you. Holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to see you. Just the voices. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to see you.
What it really is about. You see, that's the gentle nature of innocent perception. To see with the eyes of the heart. To see with the eyes of the heart. Innocent perception. To see and accept the world as it is and know that it is enough. Thank you, Jared. We'll have you back for a meditation in a little while. We'll be revisiting that song. But you know what? Sometimes life is really hard, isn't it? Sometimes it's really hard, and so how do we do that? How do we innocently perceive and accept the world as it is and know that is enough when things are difficult? How is that possible? Is that possible? Well, I think it is. I know it is. I know that it's possible. But it does require that we see with the eyes of the heart. Because the mind is not going to understand this out here. The mind doesn't understand. It can't do what it does and make sense of it. Only the heart can do that. Only the heart can make sense of it. Only the heart can make sense of difficulties and suffering and those sorts of things. The mind can't do it. That's not what it's built for. That's not how we can use it. When I was preparing this message, I ran across this quote from Jamie Verone, and I want to read it to you here because it speaks to this. She says, "Sometimes there is no silver lining. There is no finding strength, and there is no seeing the bright side. Sometimes it's about acceptance." And that's what innocent perception is about, by the way. Acceptance. And that acceptance might feel jagged. Has it ever felt that way to you? I know it has to me. Jagged. Like shards of glass. Jagged. It's not a clean line. Sometimes a choice will leave residue of regret, even when it's the best choice for you. Sometimes you'll miss the people who you know you can't be around. I hope that when you are feeling sad and prickly and frustrated, that there's a voice within you letting that be okay. Innocent perception. It's not always a lesson. We need to stop. It's wise to stop telling people that, especially when they are in pain. Well, this must be some kind of lesson for you. Oh, no, it isn't. It's not always a lesson. Sometimes you just have to sit with disappointment. Sometimes you need the heaviness to engulf you. Sometimes melancholy can't be fixed. Sometimes there's nothing anyone can say that can take away your pain. In fact, most of the time that's true. Maybe always even. And that's okay. You don't have to react perfectly. You don't have to plaster a smile on your face that feels like a grimace. Let yourself be where you are. Feel what you feel. So much of our pain comes from trying to control life. Our emotions, our reactions when it's not always possible to do so. Be where you are, no matter where you are. Let acceptance be the gift of this season, jagged as it might be. Because sometimes it's just jagged. That's the truth. So we let it be. Nobody ever promised us smooth sailing. There's not a contract we signed that said everything was going to be great 100% of the time. That's an illusion. See, that's an illusion that your mind and my mind has made up. Like everything should be great. You meditate, you pray daily, you've done this, you treat people well. So it should be smooth sailing. One of the saddest things I've ever experienced is being with somebody at hospice on their dying bed. And for that person to say to me, Paula, I did everything right and I'm still dying. That hurt me. It was hurting that person. Badly. Badly. Nobody promises that. Well, that's not very inspirational, is it? It's kind of hard. This doesn't sound really good, Paula. Where are you getting to? But stick with me here because I want to tell you what Jesus told Glenda Green that really makes this idea even more grounded. It's the answer to why do bad things happen to good people, which is a question as a minister happens a lot. It's like, why is this happening? That's the mind. The mind wants to know why. The heart says, tell me more. But the mind, why? So I want to teach a little bit from chapter 4, In Love Without End. And let me start this way. This is Jesus talking. He says, in the universe, the process of cause and effect describes the way in which balance is lost and regained. Remember, because energy is neither created nor destroyed, it's only transformed, right? So there's nothing that's created, it's simply a rebalancing. We talk about that at the beginning of every year, maybe rebalancing our lives, right? I did that. There were 3 things I wanted to do. I wanted to start exercising every day, cut out sugar, and stop drinking alcohol, going through that detox period. Well, I did really good with the sugar and the alcohol, but the exercise thing, 2 days, and then I haven't done anything since. Right. Rebalancing. I'm going to start again tomorrow, and see how this week goes. So this rebalancing. When balance has been lost, it must be regained. He says that is karma. However, retreading the pathways of cause and effect is not the only way of restoring balance and wholeness. By grace and by love, there is a higher way. By grace and by love, there is a higher way. All that is asked of you is that you fervently seek the restoration of wholeness whenever it has been lost. So that's our job, is to seek the restoration of wholeness. It is my hope that you will find it through reconnection with your source, with God, with Holy Spirit, with universal mind, with the divine, who will cancel your debt by the greater power of love, grace, and synchronicity. In other words, when we lead with the heart, that's the possibility. That's the possibility. He's not talking about individual wholeness here. He's not talking about Paula's wholeness and my karma and my past lives and how I can do this for me. He's talking about the brotherhood and sisterhood of man and woman. He's talking about the consciousness that we are all a part of and one with. He is talking about what we call oneness. He's talking about restoring wholeness to the oneness that we are. You see how this is deeper than just what I've been talking about up to now? He says this to her, "It is my central purpose to raise souls to a higher sense of responsibility, one empowered by the Sacred Heart and by the grace of God." All of us. I'm like right on the precipice as I'm reading this. I'm like, what is he going to say next? You know, this is more than karma. This is more than past lives. This is about the brotherhood and sisterhood and the consciousness of humankind and the consciousness of consciousness. Here's how it goes into this next part. Jesus says, "Who does not rejoice to inherit the achievements of those who have come before?" We all do that, right? I mean, we all stand on the shoulders of people who came before us, our families, people at work. If you're a musician, you know, how much do you depend on? For me, I mean, we all depend on that. We have all inherited up to this point. We're not starting over again every time we come into a new body. Yet how much more courage does it take to live and continue to live in the midst of errors that have preceded one's stay on earth? So we not only inherit the good, we inherit the errors that have come before us. You know, I'm reading the biography of Eleanor Roosevelt right now. And I didn't know much about Eleanor Roosevelt before I started reading this big tome. And then in the late 1930s and early 40s, do you know the same stuff politically was going on then as now? It's the same stuff. They thought democracy was going down the drain. They were putting the Japanese Americans in concentration camps, for crying out loud. They were lynching black people after they had served in the World War and come home. And we think now is the worst time in democracy. No. But we've inherited those vibrations. We've inherited those vibrations. It's just the way energy works. It can't not be that way. There is no avoiding the collective inheritance of both good and bad. How do we go from here? We open the eyes of our heart, because if our mind tries to get its way around it, we'll be off the deep end. But not when we see with the eyes of our heart. Listen to this. "He then looked deeply with penetrating clarity into my eyes," she says, "as if he were looking through my eternity, and pronounced this." He said, "You are innocent and born as perfection, but into a world that has every conceivable legacy. These legacies come to each person partially by magnetism, yet partially without respect for person. For all men and women are equally brothers and sisters in the human race." This is a great explanation as a minister, especially. It's like, why do these things happen? Well, you didn't do anything to deserve this. This is what is happening. The innocent perception calls us to say, this is what is happening, and it is as it is, without judgment. Without exception, each one must accept some part of that collective inheritance. Our soul has accepted some part of the negative vibrations that have come before us. Why? Well, he says this is the original and true meaning of a greatly abused statement that none is above sin. Here's what it really means according to Jesus. The true meaning of that statement is that no one within the brotherhood and sisterhood is above accepting some part of the negative legacy and the responsibility for transmuting it, the responsibility for changing it, the responsibility for transforming it. That's what it's about. The things that happen to me that are less than joyful, that's what they're here for, so that I, through the power of God in me, can transform it, can change it. Here's some examples he gives. The next time you see someone living in a way that is upsetting to you, instead of condemning, you may say a silent prayer of thanks that it is not you who has accepted that particular commission. When you see a handicapped person, instead of seeing disability, perhaps you could look at the great courage and ability it took to receive that destiny. When you see a man living under a bridge, you might think of honoring a soul so noble as to endure loss and abandon for his charter. And when a child is dying of cancer, instead of pitying its loss of life, instead see a soul so assured of immortality that he could receive that legacy. Listen to this. Do not view hardship as punishment, but rather as inclusion. Oh, I just got goosebumps in my whole body. Do not view hardship as a punishment, but as inclusion. That your soul is brave enough to accept the commission for which you are here and to transform it, to transmute it, to lift it up. That is incredible to me, like boom, mind blowing. If I wanted to know why, seeing with the eyes of my heart, that, done. Living that, well, in progress. Wow. He says this was the great lesson of Job. Remember Job? A wealthy man who lived in ancient Israel. He enjoyed the favor of good fortune and rich blessings until a series of reversals changed his life for the worse. Job tried to interpret his hardship as punishment, yet that made no sense. All right? Last year, on January 14th, a young baby, 1 month old, died. Or no, he was born on January 14th. He died on February 14th. I did his funeral service in March. Like, how? It's not a punishment. He tried to interpret the hardship as something he had to work through. And that changed nothing. He tried to interpret it as something that he would have to receive as a lesson. Still, nothing changed. He tried penance and supplication to God in the form of prayer, sacrifice, and worship. Nothing. Nothing in that way brought any satisfaction to him. In desperation, he pleaded to God for answers. He said, Why? Why, God, do good people suffer while the evil are left free to exploit with their profits? Why, God? Have you ever done that? Why me? It's why? When the Almighty answered him from a whirlwind, he brought only more questions to Job. He said, Have you ever given orders to the morning? Or shown the dawn its place? Can you bind the beautiful Pleiades? You know, the stars in the constellation Taurus, or the 7 daughters of Atlas. Have you ever tried to bind them together? Does the hawk take flight by your wisdom? and spread its wings toward the south? Does the eagle soar at your command and build his nest on high? God's message to Job was that the answer lies not in bitterness or judgment or even the search for reasons, but rather in the vastness and grandeur of the universe, in innocent perception. Of seeing as a child sees, of seeing the awesomeness of the world the way it is. We have control over nothing. Nothing. What does the Bible say? We can't even make ourselves a cubit taller. We don't even know the time of our death. We can't even, like, we don't know anything. And yet we act as if, because our mind's telling us our story, those stories, rather than leading with the heart and innocent perception. Here's what happened. Finally, Job surrendered, accepting the hardship as his new lot in life. At last, he understood that his charter within the brotherhood and sisterhood of man was to accept the bad with the good. To accept it. Not resist it. Not to accept it as if being resigned to it. But to accept it as an awesome opportunity to be included in the transformation of humankind. By the grace of God, he was then restored to his original wealth and his original blessing. However, it was not by justifications of cause and effect that this was accomplished, but by the higher power of acceptance and grace. How many of us view acceptance as a higher power? Not me until I read this. I'm like, what a power! The power of acceptance, of innocent perception. Life is to be shared for better or for worse as all men rise together. You know, that was what Jesus taught. He said that in the Bible. He said, when I raise up, I bring all men to me. He wasn't saying he did that alone. He was saying this is how you live. This is how you transform consciousness. This is what happens. This is how you transform the energies of the world. When you raise yourself up in this consciousness, you bring other people up with you. And we're not separate. We bring the whole consciousness up, and that's how it works. Boom, for me. Just boom. And what's my work? Open the eyes of my heart. Open the eyes of my heart. Let me see from that place. That's the practice. And that's what we'll have this chance to do together right now. Just these souls in this room could change the consciousness of the planet. We are doing that. And we will do that right now. We open the eyes of our heart. They asked her, "Why are we here at a time when there is so much misery and despair?" And she responded, "Because you answered the call. The earth signaled for heroes, and the heavens sent forth the ones who were most ready to grow and unleash their unconditional love. You're here to shine the light of your own healing, to offer the world the gift of your balance and your peace." So let's pray this way together as we do at Soul Center. You ready? Deep breath in. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all be happy. And so it is. Until next time, yes? Amen. Thank you, Jared.